Behind the chair on the floor 2 shadows lay crisscross, one more dense and black, the other faint and gray. The shadow of the back of the chair and of its tapering legs could be seen distinctly on the floor, but there was no shadow of Varanyuka's head above the back of the chair, or of the administrator's legs under its legs. He casts no shadow. Rimsky cried out desperately in his mind. He broke into shivers. Varanyuka, following Rimsky's insane gaze, looked furtively behind him at the back of the chair, and realized that he had been found out. He got up from the chair, the fine director did likewise, and made one step back from the desk, clutching his briefcase in his hands. He's guessed, damn him. Always was clever, Varanyuka said, grinning spitefully right in the fine director's face, and he sprang unexpectedly from the chair to the door and quickly pushed down the catch on the lock. The fine director looked desperately behind him, as he retreated to the window giving onto the garden, and in this window, flooded with moonlight, saw the face of a naked girl pressed against the glass and her naked arm reaching through the vent pane and trying to open the lower latch. The upper one was already open. It seemed to Rimsky that the light of the desk lamp was going out and the desk was tilting. An icy wave engulfed Rimsky, but, fortunately for him, he got control of himself and did not fall. He had enough strength left to whisper, but not cry out. Help! Varanyuka, guarding the door, hopped up and down by it, staying in air for a long time and swaying there. Waving his hooked fingers in Rimsky's direction, he hissed and smacked, winking to the girl in the window. She began to hurry, stuck her red-haired head through the vent, reached her arm down as far as she could, her nails clawing at the lower latch and shaking the frame. Her arm began to lengthen, rubber-like, and became covered with a putrid green. Finally the dead woman's green fingers got hold of the latch knob, turned it, and the frame began to open. Rimsky cried out weakly, leaned against the wall, and held his briefcase in front of him like a shield. He realized that his end had come. The frame swung wide open, but instead of the night's freshness and the fragrance of the lindens, the smell of a cellar burst into the room. The dead woman stepped onto the windowsill. Rimsky clearly saw spots of decay on her breast. And just then the joyful, unexpected crowing of a cock came from the garden, from that low building beyond the shooting gallery where birds participating in the program were kept. A loud, trained cock trumpeted, announcing that dawn was rolling towards Moscow from the east. Savage fury distorted the girl's face, she emitted a hoarse oath, and at the door Varanyuka shrieked and dropped from the air to the floor. The cockcrow was repeated, the girl clacked her teeth, and her red hair stood on end. With the third crowing of the cock, she turned and flew out, and after her, jumping up and stretching himself horizontally in the air, looking like a flying cupid, Varanyuka slowly floated over the desk and out the window. White as snow, with not a single black hair on his head, the old man who still recently had been Rimsky rushed to the door, undid the catch, opened the door, and ran hurtling down the dark corridor. At the turn to the stairs, moaning with fear, he felt for the switch, and the stairway lighted up. On the stairs the shaking, trembling old man fell because he imagined that Varanyuka had softly tumbled on top of him. Having run downstairs, Rimsky saw a watchman asleep on a chair by the box office in the lobby. Rimsky stole past him on tiptoe and slipped out the main entrance. Outside he felt slightly better. He recovered his senses enough to realize, clutching his head, that his hat had stayed behind in the office. Needless to say, he did not go back for it, but, breathless, ran across the wide street to the opposite corner by the movie theater, near which a dull reddish light hovered. In a moment he was there. No one had time to intercept the cab. "Make the Leningrad Express, I'll tip you well," the old man said, breathing heavily and clutching his heart. "I'm going to the garage," the driver answered hatefully and turned away. Then Rimsky unlatched his briefcase, took out 50 rubles, and handed them to the driver through the open front window. A few moments later, the rattling car was flying like the wind down Sadovoi Ring. The passenger was tossed about on his seat, and in the fragment of mirror hanging in front of the driver, Rimsky saw now the driver's happy eyes, now his own insane ones. Jumping out of the car in front of the train station, Rimsky cried to the first man he saw in a white apron with a badge. "First class, single, I'll pay 30, he was pulling the banknotes from his briefcase, crumpling them. "No first class, get me second if not, a hard bench." The man with the badge kept glancing up at the lighted clock face as he tore the banknotes from Rimsky's hand. "5 minutes later the express train disappeared from under the glass vault of the train station and vanished clean away in the darkness. And with it vanished Rimsky." Chapter 15. Nicanor Ivanovich's Dream. It is not difficult to guess that the fat man with the purple physiognomy who was put in room 119 of the clinic was Nicanor Ivanovich Bozoy. He got to Professor Stravinsky not at once, however, but after first visiting another place. Of this other place little remained in Nicanor Ivanovich's memory. He recalled only a desk, a bookcase and a sofa. There a conversation was held with Nicanor Ivanovich, who had some sort of haze before his eyes from the rush of blood and mental agitation, but the conversation came out somehow strange, muddled, or, better to say, did not come out at all. The very first question put to Nicanor Ivanovich was the following. "Are you Nicanor Ivanovich Bozoy, chairman of the House Committee at number 502 bis on Sadovaya Street?" To this Nicanor Ivanovich, bursting into terrible laughter, replied literally thus. "I'm Nicanor, of course I'm Nicanor. But what the deuce kind of chairman am I?"